Hello, everyone. It is your resin 3D printing god, Akuma Mods, back again with yet another FDM review. Yes, we have the Sunlu T3, otherwise known as the Terminator. Let's take a look. Yeah, so Sunlu sent us this printer to check out and review, and basically we've been putting it through its tests. And one of the major things that you guys probably want to watch this video for is if you see the listing for this printer right now, looking at it, it is available on Amazon right now for $279. And one of the major things that this printer boasts about is the fact that it can print at 250 millimeters a second. Now, I say that with quotations because I'll be completely honest. I tried a handful of prints and not one of them really came out good enough to qualify as a good print. I'll be honest, I'd rather go back to an Ender 3 and call it a day. I even tried to tune it down to about half of that, if not maybe a little bit more. So when I say that, this printer, if you slice a file at 60 or 80 millimeters a second, which that's what most normal printers run at out of the box, and I'm not saying that even most printers print well at that. Usually people even tune it down from that to like 50 or 60 millimeters from 80. But I haven't really had any good printing at all that, again, I can consider a good print over 80 millimeters a second. Like I was saying, the ability that you can slice this at 60 or 80 millimeters, there's actually a setting on this printer that you can enable fast mode. And essentially what fast mode does is it doubles the processing speed or processing power in some way, shape, or form. I don't know, some voodoo magic. I have no idea. I'm not too much in tune with FDM stuff anymore as I was, 4 or 5 years ago when I got into this. But essentially, what that does is it allows you to print instead of at 60 millimeters a second, it allows you to print at 120 millimeters a second. Or if you're printing at 80 millimeters a second, you have the ability to print at 140 millimeters a second. And again, I really haven't gotten any good results with that, and it's been okay at best. But 250 millimeters a second, it's just pretty much non-existent. And I say this as there is the ability to probably hit those type of speeds. I personally haven't checked out, but at least in a stock form, it does not print like that. So if you're taking the listing as word of mouth that this printer can print 250 millimeters out of the box, that's not the case. Can it print at 250 millimeters? Probably, with proper tuning and getting a profile set up, which apparently there are a handful of people that utilize that. And it seems to be that most of them do use Prusa Slicer in order to gain those type of speeds. So might also be a limitation with Cura. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out there as a possibility. I don't really know. But I thought it was just me at first, and I reached out to a handful of people who actually have this machine and have had it a little bit before I did, and their results are pretty much the same. Without any tuning, the machine basically just prints at a normal stock speed. You can maybe push it to 100 millimeters a second, but again, you're tipping that fine line where depending on what type of print you're doing, it's going to be either a disaster or a good day. So as of right now, if you're looking for something that prints detail at a 100 millimeter plus ability, this printer, out of the box at least, will not do that. Again, with some fine tuning, you can probably achieve that or close to it. I'm still a little bit skeptical at the 250 millimeter mark. That seems quite fast for this this printer itself, but you know, I I guess with some proper tweaks, we can maybe get it to there, but I still just I don't see that happening in my opinion. Maybe like 150, maybe 180, okay, with some proper tuning, but I don't really see anything above that in my opinion, just because of the way if you know printers and you know how they act and how everything goes, looking at how this printer prints at 140 millimeters a second, um, it's very, very fast, very, very, very rigid. So I just don't see this printer exceeding that 180 millimeters a second. Like it's like top tier in my opinion. But again, I could be proven wrong. Some people do crazy stuff with their printers, and there could be that possibility. But I figured I'd just throw that out there and just let you guys know. So I just wanted to go over the printer itself and just give you some inside information about what I see and some weird things and some good things and some more odd things. So anyway, again, this is priced at $279, so it's kind of more in the ballpark range of like the Ender series printers, the Voxelab Aquila X2, and the Elegoo Neptune 3s. So it's right around that era, and obviously with the supposed speeds that it gets, it's supposed to be a better one, but I'm gonna hold my reservation for that until somebody puts out a profile. I would think that Sunlu would put a speed profile out for this machine right off the bat, but they don't even provide that. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know, kind of strange, but on par for the course with Sunlu from what I've heard. Anyway, going back to the machine. So this is a single Z-Rod setup. So you do have a power supply here. It does look like a Meanwell power supply. I have not disassembled it to confirm it, but most likely there is a possibility that it is a Landy power supply. That seems to be the new one coming out of China. You see them with a lot of Creality machines where they supposedly have Meanwell. But again, they're more like knockoff Meanwell printers or power supplies than they are actual Meanwells. And again, that fluctuates from time to time. Might just be a supply and demand thing. It might be pricing. I have no idea. But we've seen that a lot, at least in the Creality community, where they've swapped out the Meanwell power supply for a Landy power supply. But either way, it works okay. I haven't heard any issues with the Landy power supplies at all. So they seem to work just as well as the Meanwell, and stability wise, they're obviously better than the stock power supplies that you guys used to grew up with the original Ender 3s, those big chunky ones. So anyway, we do have a dual geared extruder. It is the metal style. So for those who are looking to print, maybe like TPU or something a little bit more flexible, I don't think this will print some stuff like Ninja Flex because that seems to be like super flexible. But you could probably get away with like your standard TPU, something that has a higher sureness rating and has a little bit less bendability. Nothing that can literally be like a rubber band. I wouldn't suggest that because there's still a pathway for that TPU to basically exit the extruder in a way that you don't want it to. So you could have a bad day. So maybe a good thing to do is just upgrade it with a Titan or something cheaper, a knockoff BMG extruder. That might be a good upgrade, and that's really all you need to do. You can print literally anything with those type of extruder setups. So I highly suggest doing that upgrade if you're looking to print really all material, in my opinion, without issue on a Bowden setup. Yes, you don't need to go direct drive. Oh yeah, I said it. You don't need to go direct drive if you want to print TPU or any other material. A Bowden tube will print just the same materials at the same speeds as a direct drive setup. So I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of beef with that, but it is what it is. It's testing several machines over and over, and I just kind of see that. So anyway, moving along. We do have a filament runout sensor, which is kind of nice. You see most printers nowadays coming with these. I think it's a great piece of hardware to have on all printers. And because of the filament path, you don't have a direct filament path like some printers. I know some of the Anycubic Vipers have a weird triggering issue. For that, I always suggest going up and then in, and it changes the filament path because when these things are mounted, there's an issue when you have direct path to it. They go bad very quickly, and you have to kind of fiddle around with the trigger because essentially all it is just a Z end stop trigger. That's all it is. That's all that's inside of these little boxes. Usually, there are a couple of them that are laser setups, but there's very few of those out there. At least on a stock printer that you'll find, out in the wild. But there are a couple. Um, some interesting things about it is that, you know, I think one of the reasons why this printer probably won't reach the 250 millimeter mark is the fact that it has like a Creality stock hot end. This has an MK8 style, I believe it is, that Creality uses, and it looks identical to like the ones that you find on the Under 3s. And I think that's really its crutch. If it had maybe like a V6 or a Volcano hot end or something better flowing than the stock hot end style, I think it would be a lot better and it would flow a lot better. But again, that might come to fruition down the line. Somebody upgraded it and that make this an amazing machine. So I would say if you're looking for a machine that you want to do some minor upgrades to make this thing a beast, then by all means, I highly suggest it. It's really, really nice. Um, One of the crazy things about this printer is that it actually has a fan on it. I think it's a 40 by 40 millimeter fan, or maybe even a 30 millimeter fan. I can turn this machine, but you guys won't be able to see it. But essentially, it has a fan mounted right behind this extrusion rail, the upright, and it's going right on the extruder motor. And that's just because, well, when you're pushing plastic as fast as you need it to, things tend to overheat. So they actually kind of thought about that in a sense. However, like I said, the crutch on this thing is the hot end. There's not either enough cooling or it just doesn't have a good enough flow in this hot end to achieve that 250 millimeter. Again, I may be wrong about that, but just from looking at the parts that are supplied on this printer, I really don't think that anything over 180 is achievable on this printer, at least in a stock form without doing some major tweaking to some parts and things like that. So, we'll have to see if I'm proven wrong on that. But I've been around long enough to where you kind of see like what fits well and kind of piece things together. So, but again, who knows? I could be proven wrong nowadays. There's some crazy advancements that people have made. So anyway, weird thing about this printer is that it has dual leveling knobs for no earthly reason. I really don't know why they still have leveling knobs. In this day and age, in my opinion, if you have an auto leveling system, there should be no need to have anything to level your bed. There shouldn't. Like solid bed mounts, no, there should be no knobs on here at all. Like you should never ever have to touch that bed. The auto leveling system should do everything that it is intended to, which makes me think that this is kind of a broken printer. And I don't really mean to say that as like this is a pile of garbage, but it's just the fact that there's no need to have that. You shouldn't have to level your bed in any way, shape, or form with a auto leveling system. Now, I may be, a little bit biased on that because I used to work for a company called TH3D Studio, and one of the major products that we used to sell and still is being sold by TH3D Studio is the Easy ABL system. But not only that, a lot of times when people would buy that product, they would also couple it with solid bed mounts. And as long as your printer is set up and squared up, it will print beautifully every single time. Your mesh will come out great. It will have very little deviation. The only deviation that you would get was from the actual bed itself, because I mean, honestly, these beds are really, really thin. So there is some peaks and valleys that happen when it heats up and cools down over time. And it's just normal. I mean, cheap aluminum, it expands and contracts and just has some peaks and valleys. So it happens all the time. It comes with the territory, but I've never seen them so bad where a auto bed leveling system cannot correct it, because the deviation for auto leveling is usually like 0.2 millimeter off. And if it's beyond that, then there's usually something else majorly wrong with the printer. It's not usually the bed. There are those very rare occasions, yes, there is. But in my opinion, in the 5 years I've been doing this, I've probably seen maybe 5 of them in my entire life that actually had terribly warped beds where it couldn't be fixed with an auto leveling. However, all they did was just shim it up with some tape, and use like a glass bed, and everything was hunky dory after that. So, again, there are some workarounds on that if you guys are interested. But again, I just don't understand why there's even 2 knobs to level on this. That seems a little bit extreme, and it makes it seem like, okay, they want this to move fast, but then it literally rattles apart if you move too fast. So that means that the bed will probably come unleveled at some point. So you're going to face even bigger problems. And with that being said, like this knob section right here for the bed, it's literally like a half a millimeter away from the top of this piece. So if these come undone, like you're cutting it close there, and you can have a major catastrophe. So, in my opinion, if you're building a speedy printer, you really should have the less moving parts or less vibrated parts that can come off of it, the better. So, again, I would think a solid bed would be the way to go on this. Again, it makes me think that they're hiding something. I don't really know, because it seems to work okay. I don't see anything majorly off with it, but you know, who knows with these. Another great feature is that these do have a X and Y leveling adjustment, which is really, really nice. You just turn this little knob. I wish the knobs were a little bit bigger. They're kind of small. I mean, I guess that's okay because it kind of, keeps you from bumping it too easy. But with my bear claws, they're not the greatest. I hate having these little small screws. They dig into the grooves of my finger, and I'm just not a big fan of them. But that might just be a personal preference on here. So, um, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the printer itself. One of the other, I guess, weird things I guess can leave with this is there's a giant pocket right behind the LCD screen, and I don't know what their intention was with that, but at least like the Mingda Magician version of this printer, because essentially they're all made by the same manufacturer now. All the printers, like the Ender 3S1, the Anycubics, I mean, really, everybody that you can think of, they're all designed off of the same style printer nowadays. Nobody really has an original idea anymore, and I mean, you can't really have too much of an original idea anymore. They're just set, and that's it. But essentially, it seems like one manufacturer makes them for all the companies, and then they just kind of like Mondays, all right, we're going to make Sunlu printers. Tuesday, we're going to make Minda's printers. And essentially, they just change some parts around here and there and then call it their own. But in all reality, the printers themselves, they all look very similar. They all have very, very similar parts. And like I said, at least on the Mingda, I believe it was, they had like a top section that was removable. Where on here, it's just a basket. And one of the things that I absolutely hate about it is when I'm removing prints very quickly on this, it tends to have all of my scraps and everything just dive right in there. And it's just weird because it's like I use my right hand, so I scrape off to the left when I'm scraping prints off. So it's just weird because it's like a magnet for prints and things like that. I don't understand why. Maybe when I lift up and I come back to go again, I don't know. Maybe it's just my issue because I'm a lefty and I use my right hand to scrape it off. I don't know, but it just seems kind of strange. I would think somebody who's working in the community, who knows, maybe even me, I'll go out there and design some sort of cover to this because it's kind of annoying. And it would just be nice to have as a parts compartment, just like you would any other printer, the Enders, the Elegoo's, the Anycubics, the Voxel Labs. They all have some sort of compartment. Focus, Mingda, everybody. And this one does have a compartment, but it's not closed in any way, shape, or form. So it's just kind of strange. So other than that, yeah, the printer has been printing fantastically as long as we're printing at about 80 millimeters a second, which is great because, you know, comparing it to like an Ender 3, the profile is usually set for 80 millimeters right out of the box, but usually you have to dial it down a little bit when you're first printing because it's too fast for most people and it just causes the disasters right out of the box. But again, with the auto leveling system here, that kind of takes care of that and, you know, lessens the user error a little bit. And yeah, that's really what kind of helps with it. So, but anyways, let's get to showing off some prints, and I'll kind of show you guys how it's been printing. One of the prints we did do, and my apologies, I was working with some uh, support settings on some stuff, and the supports didn't come off this print too well, but we did end up printing the Ocarina of Time, and yes, it does work perfectly well. I just can't play to save my soul, so let's try and play some notes. Not bad, not bad. I'll be an instrumental genius in about, I don't know, 500 years. So yeah, great print, solid, very little ringing issues like artifacts, very little on this print, and that pretty much goes for the same on most of these. And these next prints that I'm going to show you are prints that are made off of this roll of filaments. This is a roll of filaments that I am working with a company to provide as my own official brand. However, I don't have any exclusivity rights, so they can sell the color as their own. But we have ordered about 50 rolls of them. They are slow boating them over here, so I'm guessing around sometime around mid to late November, we'll have them up available in the Etsy shop. So if you guys are interested in it, make sure you're following in the Etsy shop and checking that out. And you know, you guys will be able to get a chance to get an Akuma Mods black and red dual color filament. So anyway, so this one is your typical dragon. This is from Cinderwing, and I'll kind of show it off here. But we do have a little bit of stringing. Again, this is kind of like a prototype roll. It's not finalized or anything. So we do have some issues with stringing. I don't think that's really the printer issue. It's just more or less like settings and just getting the filament right. So again, you know, there are some artifacts on this print, but again, I'm chalking that up more or less to the filament because that Ocarina came out pretty good compared to this. But as you can see, there are dual colors in here. We have red on the one side, black on the back, and then a little bit of a in between on the other side. So fantastic prints. Again, I will have all these prints linked down in the description here. One of my favorite prints is the one that kind of looks like me, you know, from Rogi Studio. So I kind of see the thing between us. It's just the fact that I'm still living and, you know, this guy's really not. But this is a great print from Rogi Studios. This is the bearded skull model. And again, you can see that dual color action right there. It is just amazing. I absolutely love how this color came out. I cannot wait for people to start printing with this. It's going to be fantastic. So we printed a little what is it, Kendo bot. I keep forgetting the name of this. So this guy came out pretty good. He's pretty much all red on the top part, but you can see some black on like the shadowing, so it makes for a cool effect on these guys when you actually see them. The camera's really not doing it justice, but you can kind of see like there's the black embedded inside of him, so really cool that he's like a half and half type thing. So it all depends on the type of orientation that you have some of these prints that really get it going. And then here's our Cali Dragon. This is a second Cali Dragon. And again, it is a little bit stringy, but it came out amazing for what it was. And again, this is on stock settings. Now, excuse me, I show you guys that. And I want to show you this print because this is essentially the first print that was sent to me by a fellow content creator. His name's Teddy Gurr. He was on the live stream when I was doing the unboxing, and thankfully he did send us a calibration print that was already pre-sliced, ready to go, so we could just hit print and go. Now I will say that this print finished in about 15 minutes, I think it was, maybe a little bit less, so it was insanely quick, but you can kind of see the difference in the quality. So this is, I believe, sliced at 80 millimeters, and then we put on the fast mode onto the printer, and that essentially jumped it to 140 millimeters. So we were printing pretty fast on this. But you can see the difference between the quality of our stock speed, which is this one, and our double speed, which is that one. I mean, the quality difference is vastly different. So again, I'm sure with a little bit of tweaking and tuning on the printer profile itself and just kind of messing with some things, you can probably get it dialed in a little bit more. But again, I was kind of expecting it right out of the box that this had the ability to print 250 millimeters on the go. Like, no messing around. Like, you guys are boasting that it does 250 millimeters. I'm expecting that. So I guess it's kind of a hindsight on my part that, I kind of got drawn into the marketing BS, so to speak. And that's basically what happened is they can't even produce that quality right out of the box on double the speed of a normal stock setting. So again, this is anywhere between 120 millimeters to 140 millimeters. So I think it's more on 140 millimeter side, if I remember correctly. I think he did slice that at 80 millimeters. And essentially, like I said, the printer doubles that speed when you are in fast mode. And talking about fast mode, I just wanted to leave you guys with this. You do have the ability to turn that off. And I will tell you, like, if you are printing and you're having issues right out of the box, go down there, turn off the fast mode. That's probably the issue that you guys are having because, again, you're using a stock profile. You don't have anything tuned, and it's just kind of spitting plastic out there and doing its best to try and keep that file going. And it does to an extent, but the detail is just, it is horrendous. Like, just looking at this makes me cringe. Uh, it's been a while since I've seen a print that bad that wasn't due to like a clog or anything. Like a machine itself that just prints that right out of the box. It's just, that's cringeworthy to me, in my opinion. But other than that, it's not too bad of a printer. I'll let you guys decide on whether or not that's something that you want to really pick up. In my opinion, I'm kind of half and half with it. I think there's printers that are just as good as it because, like I said, right out of the box, it can print great at 80 or 60 millimeters a second or 50 millimeters, whatever. Anywhere between that 50 to 80 millimeter range. Again, maybe pushing it to 100. It can print pretty well in. So I haven't really had any issues besides that. It's only when I started jacking up the settings and making it a little bit faster and pushing past that 100 millimeters a second is where I started to see the issues and artifacting and it just, you saw it. I mean, you saw it. It just does not print what it needs to be printing. So, but with that being said, for $279 and having the ability to possibly reach that 250 millimeters a second, if the board does allow that, this is going to be a great printer to have a little bit of DIY work done to it. Again, maybe swapping out the extruder for maybe like a BMG or something a little bit better, and swapping out the hot end for a V6, a Revo, whatever the newer ones are. There's so many out there, like the Mosquito, the Spider, whatever their names are nowadays. But Essentially, you need something a little bit more high flow, I think, to attain that 250 millimeter ability. But as long as that board can basically effectively produce that 250 millimeters a second, I think this will be a little bit better of a winner over like a purchase of an Ender 3V2, in my opinion. So if you are looking at the Ender 3V2, I definitely would give this a closer look and decide on which way you want to go. If you want to do a little bit more tinkering out of the box, this, well, I mean, really both of them are great printers to tinker with, but this one checks a little bit more boxes over the Ender 3V2, especially since it has auto leveling. That's one thing that a lot of people struggle with right out of the box. So who knows? Maybe it'll come down in price, and you guys can get this for even cheaper. But as of right now, I think this is a pretty good buy. I just, again, if you're looking for really, really fast speeds, kind of look around and see what people have done in the community for profiles before you hit that purchase button, and just make sure that you're okay with what you're purchasing. Because essentially, this is just like an Ender 3v2 with some minor upgrades. I guess they're kind of medium upgrades to most. And that might just be the selling point by itself. You might not even need speed. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to have all of these files linked down below in the description. Also, if you guys haven't noticed, I am wearing some new merch from a company called Nozzle Size Studio. Someone who is on TikTok that I work with. We do have, oh, wrong shirt. We have our QR code here. We also have some more stuff on the back. I can show you guys. Boom. Showing off the merch. So we do have this. This is a hooded shirt. So it's kind of weird. I've never seen anything like this, but it is very, very comfy. It's almost like a satin feel to it, so you feel very fancy when you're wearing it. I do have a hoodie on this as well. I need to talk with them a little bit because the hands seem to be the pockets for the hands seem to be a little bit less than what I'd like it to. Essentially, you can get like your fists in there, and that's it. So if you're planning to put your phone or even your car keys, I'd be a little worried about. I mean, I don't even think I could fit my wallet in there. But other than that, I mean, it's a great quality sweater. It's like fleece lined. I absolutely love it. So we might just have to do some tweaking with the tailoring. But if you guys are looking for some merch, definitely hit up Nozzle Size Studio on Etsy. I will leave a link down below for them, and I will also leave a link down below for my Etsy as well. If you guys are looking to purchase that Akuma Mods filament, again, it probably won't be here till mid to late November. At least we won't be selling it till then. And I will have the option to sign or autograph because I know that's requested by a lot of people. Still an odd thing to do to me, but if you guys really, really want it, I'll have the option to put it on there. And who knows, maybe I'll just end up signing all the 50 rolls that I have on there. Again, we are doing a limited production run on the first go. And if it sells very well, we'll order some more and get it branded and everything. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and leave them down below. If you guys aren't following or subscribing, go ahead and hit that follow and subscribe button, please. That would absolutely help me out. And yeah, until next time, guys, happy printing.